Welcome to China Elite Politics, a podcast about Chinese Communist Party elite politics and operations, US-China relations, and China-related geopolitics. I'm Larry Ong, Senior Analyst at SinoInsider. This is episode 9 of the podcast. In this episode, we look at Beijing's new guidelines on enhancing oversight of leading officials and their teams, and what this means for Communist China and Xi Jinping. Alright, let's begin. On June 1st, the Central Committee of the Chinese Communist Party issued guidelines on strengthening supervision of leading officials, or 一把手 in Chinese, and their leadership team. The guidelines contain 5 sections, namely the political stance of leading officials, their main responsibilities, the supervision of subordinates by superiors, mutual supervision of leading officials' leadership team, and intra-party dedicated supervision. We'll go over the highlights. On the political stance of leading officials, the guidelines emphasized that it is important and urgent to strengthen supervision of leading officials and their leadership team, given that China is facing an, quote, unprecedentedly complex environment and risk challenges. To achieve a, quote, new victory for the cause of socialism with Chinese characteristics, leading officials and their team must stick to the, quote, centralized and unified leadership of Party Central and the party's, quote, great self-revolution. Also, Beijing must control, quote, key minorities, which refers to the leading officials and their team. Leading officials and their team are also required to, quote, take the lead in safeguarding the Quanwei of Party Central and its centralized and unified leadership to ensure that the whole party advances in unison. Finally, leading officials and their team must be loyal to the party. In the section on supervising leading officials and their team, the guidelines state that leading officials must, quote, feel that they are under supervision all the time. This means that superior leading officials must keep subordinate leading officials in check, a task that officials will be assessed and graded on in their annual work performance review. Beijing will hold accountable officials who fail to make the grade in supervision work. On leadership team mutual supervision, the guidelines warn that officials who conceal violations of law and discipline from other members of the leadership team will be investigated and held liable along with those who violated the law or discipline. Finally, the guidelines state that discipline inspection committees, or the anti-corruption authorities, are the dedicated agency responsible for strengthening political supervision over leading officials. Party and state propaganda outlets ran articles on how to interpret the guidelines for consecutive days after they were released. The big takeaway was that the guidelines are an important measure in resolving the issue of leading official supervision. So why is Beijing trying to tighten Communist Party control over its leading officials, and why are they doing this now? To better unpack this development, we have to account for ongoing developments in the Chinese Communist Party and in the external environment. We also have to understand it in view of the Communist Party's culture, its operations, and of course, factional struggle in the party elite. Beijing has always found it difficult to get local officials to properly implement Party Central's orders and do their job well. For all the talk of Communist China's authoritarian advantage, the history of the regime shows the party system more naturally breeds bureaucratism, corruption, and inefficiency. Then there is the problem of Communist Party culture and political correctness. Local leading officials and their underlings are inclined to prefer left rather than right, or 宁左勿右, under most circumstances. This means that Beijing's policies are often executed using extreme or disingenuous measures, with little consideration for possible consequences down the road. Take climate policy for example. Officials are known to take and publish bogus pollution readings to hit their green targets. In 2017, local authorities in some areas ordered residents to use only natural gas instead of coal for heating during the winter to comply with Beijing's climate change policies. Because gas infrastructure was not ready in many places, households were left with inadequate heating, domestic gas prices skyrocketed, and some businesses struggled to survive. Given all the aforementioned problems with local officials, Chinese commentators frequently remark that Beijing's orders fail to make it out of Zhongnanhai, which is the party's headquarters, or in Chinese, 政令不出中南海. Due to all of this, it is no wonder that Xi Jinping needs to step up scrutiny of leading officials and hold them accountable for the actions of their subordinates. Without addressing corruption and inefficiency in the bureaucracy, Beijing faces an uphill battle in advancing its agenda. Beijing also has greater need now to ensure that the bureaucracy is behind the party and working with urgency. The guidelines note that Communist China presently faces an, quote, unprecedentedly complex environment and risk challenges, a nod to the many pressing internal and external problems threatening to overcome the regime. Economic challenges are perhaps the most worrisome for Beijing. The Chinese economy has been in non-stop decline in recent years despite efforts by Beijing to turn things around. Debt risks are spiking as trillions of yuan in bonds are set to mature over the next 3 years, while too-big-to-fail companies like Huarong Asset Management and China Evergrande have massive debt problems. The coronavirus pandemic has made things even harder for production, with global inflation driving price hikes, affecting supply chains, and indirectly causing power outages in manufacturing hubs like Guangdong. A potential Fed rate hike in the near term to curb inflation could quickly reverse capital flows away from China and cause the renminbi to depreciate, developments that would be disastrous for the Chinese economy and financial sector. Other domestic problems include a resurgence of COVID-19 in southern provinces, a demographic crisis that has become more obvious with the recently published government census, and the growing popularity of a passivity movement known as Tang Ping or laying flatism. External problems include increasing failure of overseas propaganda and influence efforts as the international community pushes back against wolf warrior diplomacy, international censure over human rights like Xinjiang and Hong Kong, and growing international attention on the lab-leak theory of COVID-19's origins and the Chinese Communist Party's role in covering up the outbreak in Wuhan. In sum, the Communist Party is strengthening its supervision of leading officials to tackle and boost governing efficiency. Beijing cannot allow the regime's authoritarian disadvantage to impede its ability to weather serious domestic and foreign challenges. Meanwhile, Xi Jinping is looking to lower his personal political risks with the guidelines targeting leading officials and their leadership team. In the last podcast, we explained that Xi's commemoration of the Battle of Xiangjiang in Guangxi province is an attempt to rally officials behind the Communist Party and himself in the face of challenges by factional rivals. Shortly after Xi's Guangxi trip, Qiu Si, the ideological journal of the Party Central Committee, published an essay warning of, quote, another party central. Both developments signal that Xi is facing serious opposition inside the party from rival factions and has become concerned with how loyal Chinese officials are to him instead of another party central. To ensure that officials remain loyal to, quote, party central with Comrade Xi Jinping at the core and properly execute Beijing's orders, Xi has resorted to the carrot and stick approach with the guidelines. Officials who perform supervisory work well have better career prospects, while those who keep resisting Beijing will be punished. However, the fact that Xi needs to issue the guidelines in the first place reveals his lack of quanwei in the regime. Titles and chairmanships mean little to a party leader when he is unpopular in the officialdom, faces resistance from the permanent bureaucracy, and is encountering pushback from powerful factional elements in the Communist Party elite. Xi's quanwei deficiency means that he is far from being the unchallenged supreme leader as portrayed in the mainstream media. Contrary to popular belief, the party doesn't do Xi's every bidding the way he wants it. It is unclear if the guidelines will help Xi Jinping with the problem of disloyal or unenthusiastic officials. For one, Xi's anti-corruption campaign has already made him many enemies. Also, Chinese officials would at least be vaguely aware by now that Xi's policies have brought immense external pressure on the regime and that he is very unpopular in the international community. Leading officials who wish to see the back of Xi may very well pay lip service to the guidelines while laying flat together with their subordinates. There is also the possibility that leading officials promoted under Xi could seize the opportunity to step up purges of disloyal elements. Already, the ongoing campaign to educate and rectify the regime's political and legal affairs apparatus has resulted in a wave of probes, 20-year retroactive investigations, and self-surrenders. As we noted in episode 7 of this podcast, the political and legal affairs apparatus is a stronghold of the Jiang Zemin faction, which rivals the Xi leadership. Both probes and passive resistance will heighten political instability in Communist China and ramp up political risks for Xi Jinping. Let's briefly recap. We went over key points in Beijing's new guidelines on strengthening supervision of leading officials and their leadership team, We then analysed how Beijing is looking to bring the bureaucracy in line to better survive growing internal and external pressure directed at Communist China. Finally, we observed that Xi Jinping is likely thinking about the guidelines as a way of lowering his personal political risk, but we also explained why this move could backfire. That's it for today. If you found the information and analysis useful, please feel free to share it with others. See you in the next episode.